And here we go. Welcome back to Animation Weekends. It's Sunday, and we're talking Soul from Disney Pixar. And yes, I call me a Pixar traditionalist. It's, to me, this is a Pixar movie. It's not Disney Pixar. It's Pixar. We have to start separating the two, because Pixar, and here we go, at one time was the standard. Soul has a amazing, and I wrote it down, it's got an amazing 37 minutes and 34 seconds. 37 minutes and 35 seconds in, I have to stop watching this movie because it gets ridiculous and I absolutely lose interest. But at one time, the first 37 minutes of this movie was everything you saw from Pixar.
Quiet on the set.
So let's go.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
Action!
4 years ago, 5 years ago, I can't believe, I must have just signed up for Disney Plus. But this dropped on Disney Plus. A friend of mine, Mark, he's, Mark with a mouse. Mark, I'm losing myself. We had two Marks early on this podcast when it was called Dream Warriors, because we were dreaming to, I don't know what we were dreaming for. But we had two Marks. One Mark was a regular guy that I knew through the gym. He was great to just sit down and talk action movies with. He would just watch things and get into them. Great conversations. And then the other one was a true counterpart to myself. A geek, a dork, if you will. Someone obsessive about everything that we do here. Everything that you see me do on social media. Part of this fracturing I had with Mark was a view of this movie where he sent me a text message, and it was like this little bit of a review, but slob knobbing of how great this movie was and how deep and introspective and like all of these psychological buzzwords that people put into a movie. So I watched this movie, and then I think we go comic book hunting. He picks me up, we go comic book hunting. And I'm like, dude, this freaking movie. Now, up to that point, I had texted him. I said, hey, I took your advice. I listened to what you said. I watched Soul. I tried to watch Soul. And I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Like, do we not have a way to look at some of these movies? Because Soul came in with, there was like a little bit of hype and, pre-acceptance, I'll say. It was kind of like, you could sit down and you had to like Soul, because Soul was deep. This was a deep movie, and the plot is fantastic. The plot is a jazz musician, and I love themed characters in any animation. Like this guy's a cook, right? Like or this guy he's a fencer, and he's French. He's a French fencer, and he fences. I just like these like targeted themed characters. But he's a jazz musician. This guy is a jazz musician. He gets the gig of a lifetime, and then he dies. And then he refuses to pass on, because he's got to get back. He's got to complete his life. This is almost like a regret, and he's fighting to do it. And this is such a meaningful idea. It's meaningful enough to where you get a solid 37 minutes, and I'm being kind, because everything that leads into this movie, when we learn about this musician's life, and he's a school teacher, the animation and the design work for this guy is incredible. His hands, incredible. He has the hands of a pianist. That's what she said. And then he falls down the manhole. What's just like, right? Very, very cartoon. I love it. And he goes into the afterlife, and this is where we're a little bit challenged, because I feel I think it was Onward, which was also Pixar, Disney Pixar. There's the Elemental, and then there's Inside Out, where the overall hook of the movie all of a sudden becomes like a city. It's just like an Elemental. It's like these are the elements as a city, right? So in this one, it's like things of the afterlife of a city, like in a city. And it starts to lose you a little bit there. But we get through how things work and the logic, and we get some incredible abstract character design. Might be collectively some of their most recent best. And then here we go. He mixes things up because they kind of have a guide in the afterlife that teaches, like, it's, I'm not clear on that relationship, but he comes back to Earth with a guide, and then he wakes up in a hospital, and you're like, oh, perfect, like, right, he's going to have the guide, and he's going to be able to make his life more like, it's almost like, like It's a Wonderful Life positioning. There's a cat in this room, so his soul goes into the cat, and the other person, the other guide, or that soul, gets put into him. So it's a like Freaky Friday scenario. Now, and we just spent almost 40 minutes building everything up and really making you root for this guy. And it's meaningless if he's like cat. It just really tore me out of this movie. It happened twice, and that's the point I'm trying to get at. Where in 2020, I went off on one of my friends for not being critical enough. And it doesn't mean we can't watch things and love the merit of some of it and soak in the artistry and even and in this case the music, the colors. There's like this wireframe character design that's in the afterlife that is just to die for. The effects, the elements. Hell, I love the logo for this movie. We can put ourselves. Oh my God! I didn't even realize Trent Reznor did the music for this movie. That's amazing. So we have all of these things, right? We have all of these things, and this is technically, it's a COVID-19 movie. That's why it came on Disney Plus. COVID was still a banger time for streaming drops. Like every single service had nonstop, like big budget, awesome movies. But the movie betrays itself. It turns around and says, we're not doing that. And you've invested time. Here's the wild thing. In 2020, I watched this movie with the intent of seeing something good and listening and trusting a friend of mine. And I was, maybe a little over the top, but disappointed. And I said maybe. 5 years go by, and for Black History Month, I said, let me do it again. Let me watch this movie. The sun started to dip here in Philly, which is fantastic. If I put down my blinds, I get a nice dark room to see a movie in. And I watch a lot of movies. I am on the edge of my couch, the edge of my sofa, and I have almost like an 80-inch television. And at that point, I'm only like a couple feet away from the screen. I'm just trying to get a big enough peripheral as possible, and I watch movies this way. This is how I'd like to watch movies. And then the same thing happened, because I knew I stopped watching this movie before with the cat stuff. 5 years go by, and I get maybe 10-15 seconds into the cat stuff, and I'm gone again. And it really makes you say, am I right? Maybe I'm right. It took me 5 years to do this experiment. 5 years. in this movie falls off 37 minutes and 34 seconds. 37:34. I think that's significant. Guys, I wish I could recommend this. Rock and roll.
Okay, that's a wrap.